Good. If you remember, and I'm sure you do remember, yesterday we spoke about Moses sending the last plagues, the beginning, the first of the last three plagues, which was the plague of locusts. And there were locusts, and they ate everything up, and they were about to just finish everything that was left in Egypt. Everything was in the fields. And Paro finally says, please, Moses, stop it here. Vayamaher Paro, this is what we got up to. Vayamaher Paro, and Paro ran, Likro Moshe Aaron, to call to Moses and Aaron. Vayomer Chatasi, I have sinned. Hashem Elokechem Elechem, to God, your God, and to you. In other words, I made the Jewish people suffer. I'm trying to keep them against their will. I lied to you. I told you I'd let you go, and I didn't let you go. And that's it. I'm through with lying and my cheating ways. I'm finished. And Pharaoh hurried up. What did he have to hurry up for? The Sforno, from Avadia from the Sforno says, why hurry? Why did Pharaoh run quickly? But B'terem Yochola Arbeh, he wanted to get there before the locusts ate up Shorshe Achita, all the roots of the wheat, V'Kosemes, and the other, whatever, the spelt or whatever that was in the field, the Shara Savim, and all the other. In other words, if they ate up all the roots, then nothing would ever grow, ever. They wouldn't have any chance. So Paro was talking to Moses, please, I'm a sinner, I admit it, I'm confessing, I'm repenting. Just Chatasi, please, just bear, please, my sin one more time. In other words, forgive me for all the sins that I've done to you. Vatirul Hashem, request you, God, your God, v'yasir mi alai, and please remove from me, rak at the mavasazeh, this plague of death.
You don't want to eat anything?
Well, I have some.
Try it.
Well,
This plague of death from me, right? Plague of death. The locusts are eating everything up. What type of a plague of death? So the Kli Ykar says, Yesh Lomer, that what did he mean? Rak only. What's this word only? Rak only, remove from me only this death. What do you mean only? Remove from me the death, remove from me the. He says, no, only the death means that the locusts were deadly, right? But not all of the locusts were deadly. A lot of the locusts, they pickled. The Egyptians pickled the locusts in order to eat them. So that's what he said. Remove only the ones that might cause our death. Only remove the living locusts. The living locusts, those are the ones, they're the ones that damage and cause death. But not the ones that we've pickled, we've salted. That they already died. They're no damage to us. And God did not listen to him. And he also got rid of the salted ones. We'll see Rashi also says, Paro, and Moses left Paro, Vayatar el Hashem, and he requested from God. And God answered, Vayafochara Hashem Ruach Yom, and God has caused to blow a western wind, Chazak Meod, very strong, Vayisat Arbeh, and he lifted up the Arbeh. What does it mean? A Ruach Maravi. In other words, it was blowing toward the sea, and it blew all of these away, all the locusts, and lifted them all up, all these locusts, and sunk them all in the Nile River. There was not one in the whole land of Egypt. And Rashi says, even the salted ones that they salted in order to eat, Vayachazek Hashem et leiv Paro, and God strengthened the heart of Paro. Now Paro already is not from his own will anymore. Now Paro might have agreed to let the Jews go to get them out of here, but Hashem strengthened his heart. What does it mean he strengthened his heart? He sent him inspiration. He sent him an idea, and Paro said, listen, maybe the Jews have ran out of ammunition. Maybe they ran out of ammunition. This is the last trick they know how to do. But it's a bluff. It's a bluff, that's what it is. And they haven't got any more power. And now, I've held out from so many plagues already 8 plagues. This is already 8th plague. I held out for 8 plagues as, why should it all go to waste? All this hard fortitude and bravery that I've expended, maybe now it's going to pay off. And so anyway, God strengthened, he sent them all sorts of ideas, and he did not let the Jews go. God said to Moses, stick your hand up to heaven, there'll be darkness. There will be darkness in the land of Israel, and there will be Yamesh Choshech. Yamesh is a strange sort of weird word, but it means Yamesh, like it'll be mamashos. It'll be like very thick. Rashi says like this: there'll be darkness, and then there'll be darkness even more. It'll be darker than the darkness of night. Darkness of night, it says Yamish. It will become stronger. It'll become more, physical, and it'll be even stronger. That's what it means. Yamesh explains this word, a lot of words, grammar. Rashi is going through grammar, explaining what it means. Here's an interesting thing from the Kli Ykar. Olive. Here, Kli Ykar says like this. He says, "V'yamesh" means that he took away darkness. V'yamesh, it means he took away. What does he mean he took it away? He's going to say that he took away darkness from the Jews. Usually the daytime, a day has half of it is dark and half of it is light. And that's the way it is for everybody. So what God did is he took away the half of nighttime from the Jews and he put it on the Egyptians. Let's see. Yan, since the nature of creation, Shekol Adam, that every person, Yeshlo Yom Aflayla, he has day and night, 24 hours, some of it is day and some of it is night. What did God do? Heisir Cheshkas Stam Laila, he took away natural nighttime, Mina Gavu Yisrael, from the lot of the Jews, and he put it on the land of Israel. So he took away from the land of Israel and he put it on, in the land of Egypt. He took the darkness from the land of Israel and he put it on the Egyptians. Alkain, therefore, therefore the Egyptians had a double portion of darkness. And therefore, also it says we're going to see Gam b'yom, even in the daytime, Rashoim b'choshech nidbo. It seemed to the Egyptians that it was nighttime. Ki lo yazman l'shamish, because ki im b'yom. When could this nighttime work that God gave to them? Night they already had. So the only time night would work was in the daytime. So therefore, the Egyptians did not have any day for 3 days in a row. It was just, the whole thing was just 6 periods of night. Instead of just having 3 periods of night, it was half of the 24-hour period, as both halves were dark. It says that's the reason that the Jewish people, they got the light from the Egyptians. That's the reason it says Orba Moshvatam, that by the Jews, it was light in their dwellings. Because the nighttime of the Jews became daytime. Like it says, Veloy Badeni in Psalms. Okay, Moses stuck out his staff to heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. 3 days. Rashi says 3 days of thick darkness. You couldn't see anybody else. 3 days. Right? You'd stand right next to somebody. You couldn't see anything. Nothing whatsoever. But Od Shlosh Yamim, and also 3 more days. There was double more than this. That a person couldn't move. If he was sitting, he was afraid to stand. If he was standing, he was afraid to sit. Lama, I mean, that's really dark. Everybody was paralyzed with darkness, uncertainty. Why did God bring on this darkness? So this is a different type of darkness. This is not even a God forbid, a blind person doesn't have darkness like this. First of all, the blind person, other people see. But these people, nobody saw, none of the Egyptians saw. So nobody would have any idea what was going on. Why did God bring this darkness? Why? What type of a plague was this darkness? Shoei Yisrael Boto Ador, there were Jewish people that were, how do you say, Rashoim? There were Jewish people that they ingratiated themselves with the Egyptians. They liked the Egyptian life, and it's not surprising because the Egyptians ruled the whole world. And not only that, the Egyptians were fun-loving people. It says it was one of the most, how do you say, licentious, decadent countries in the history of the world. So the Jews like that sort of stuff. Some of them do, not all of them, but at least there's certainly there are some of them. So it says there were a lot of Rashoim in that generation. There were a lot of, how do you say, sinners, Jewish sinners. The lawyer wrote them, and they didn't want to leave Egypt. And they died in the first 3 days of darkness. In other words, God waited for them to be dark so they would die, and no one would see them. Kadesh lo Yeru, so the Jews would not be seen by the Egyptians, in their shame. And the Egyptians would say, hey, the Jews are also getting smote just like this. It's not a plague from God. It's some sort of a natural occurrence. So therefore, God made it dark so that they wouldn't see the Jews dying. But and also, Shechipsu Yisrael Baruch Kaleim, that the Jews went into the Egyptian houses and they could see all of the jewels and precious things that they had. Of course, where did the Egyptians get all these jewels and precious things? The Jews have been working for them for whatever is 116 years or something for free. So that's all the richness and the success of Egypt came from the Jews, and the Jews didn't get paid anything. So therefore, when the Jews left, Kishiyutsu, Hayu Sholim, Me'en, Vaya Omrim, Ein Bein Neklum. Now the Jews, when they went into the Egyptian houses, they didn't steal. They didn't steal anything. It says that God wanted the Jews to request from the Egyptians. He wanted them to request and lie. That's what God wanted. He wanted the Jews to lie to the Egyptians. What do you mean to lie? To say to the Egyptians, I'm going to, just 1 second, let me just answer this. Wanted the Jews to answer, to look around and see where the riches were. And then they would, when the Jews were leaving, they would go into the Egyptian houses and say, please loan me some money, some jewels, some silver, gold. What about your garments? It says the garments were even more valuable than the silver and the gold. And the Egyptian would say, oh, I don't have any, what can I do? And the Jews would say, what are you talking about? You don't have any. I was just in your house a couple of days ago. And I know exactly, let me come in, I'll show you where everything is. The Jews, also, the Jewish people saw all the riches that they had. When the Jews left, they asked them, and the Jews would say, then the Egyptians would say, I'm sorry, we don't have any money. And the Jews would say, I saw it, and I'll tell you where it is, right? Here, move that chest, you'll see there's a safe in the wall. 3 days, 3 shloshet shlamim, 3 periods of days. It says a period of 3. So it says lo ra'u ishet echiv. People didn't see each other, and that's the first step. The lo kamu ish mitachtav, and a person couldn't stand up for 3 days. But for all the Jews, it was or b'moshvotam. All the Jewish people had light in their dwellings. The Jewish people could all see. So that's what the Or HaChaim says. That's what it comes to today. The Kol Yisrael, to every Jew that went into the house of an Egyptian when they were leaving and requested that they loan them money. Of course, they were lying. The Jews were lying to the Egyptians. So he said, once again, why lie? Why not just take it by force? I mean, all the Egyptians were afraid. He says, no, the Egyptians fooled the Jews into working hard. They made the Jews work hard and promised them they would pay them, and they refused. And it ended up the Jews had to do hard work for 210 years, 119 years, however long, the 16 years, however longer it was, but they had to work at hard labor for all that time, and they didn't get paid anything. So therefore, and it was all through the trickery of also it goes back to the original trickery of the snake. The snake tricked Chava, Eve, into eating, into giving her husband to eat. So they were fixing up this trickery, so to speak. So that's what it said. Every Jew had light in their houses. What does it mean? Not just their own houses, but they had light in the houses of the Egyptians. That the Jew would go into the Egyptian house and the Jew would be able to see. So he could look around and know where all the riches were, so that when it came time to leave Egypt, that they would tell the Egyptians, I saw the riches in your house, I want you to give it to me. Okay, Paro calls to Moshe, and he says, go serve God, just your sheep and your cattle should stay here. Also, your children, they can also go with you. And there's one time Paro says everybody can go, but not the children. Now everybody says everyone can go, but you can't take any animals with you. Of course, when is this? Paro obviously is speaking after the plague has already finished, because how could Paro call to Moses? It says everybody was afraid to even move. So obviously, it says this is after that finished all the days of darkness, says the Or HaChaim, because beforehand nobody could even move from their place, and therefore Paro spoke harshly to Moshe, and he said, "Don't." Right beforehand, Paro said to Moses after the plague of the locusts. So Paro said, "Get out of here! I don't want to see your face anymore." So all of a sudden, what did God do? He said, and Paro said to Moses, "The day I see you, you're going to die." What happened? God sent a little bit of darkness, and all of a sudden he started talking differently. Paro started talking differently. Please, you're my friend. I was just kidding. Come on, Moses. You Jews you can take a joke. Come on. I didn't really mean I was going to kill you. Here it says that even though that in all the plagues, Paro called to Moses and Aaron, but this time he only called to Moses. After the plague of darkness, it says, Vayikra Paro el Moshe. After the plague of darkness, he called to Moses. Why only Moses? It says, Ki Yada Shekasher Nolad Moshe, that we knew that when Moses was born, it says the house was filled with light. So he thought that Moses, he was like the source of light. And he thought that that's in the sign that this is some sort of a special charm that he would bring light in the place of darkness. He afraid he would ingratiate Yosef, and there would never be another plague of darkness. Moses said, one second, what'd you say, Paro? We can only, but we can't take any animals with us? Listen, Paro, Vayomer says, Moshe, you haven't got any bargaining power. You haven't got any bargaining power, right? I can get out of here in one instant if I want to. You're setting the conditions here? No. You will give to us sacrifices and what is it? Another type of the whole sacrifices, sacrifices and animals to Ola is an animal that's burned up totally. And we'll do the sacrifices to God. It says Rashi, not only are we going to take our sheep and cattle with us, but also you're going to give it also. You're also going to give sheep. Now you remember that you can ask, where did the Jews get their sheep? Well, first of all, before they started the slavery, the Jews they lived in the land of Goshen, and they had, not only that, when the Jews living in Goshen, it says that the Levites lived in the land of Goshen, and they weren't under the servitude. So they also had animals that they could use, they could bring. He says, we're taking our animals, and not only that, you're going to give us animals also. Or Chaim asked the question, how could you say you give us sacrifices? What do you mean you give us sacrifices? You can't take a sacrifice from these evil people. Paro, he denied God. Even when he said, I believe in God, he was always lying. You can't take anything. So that's what he says. I'm reading the Orach Chaim. That's what it says. We will do the sacrifice to God. You just give us sheep as gifts. We'll do with the sheep what we want to. If we decide we're going to make them sacrifices, then we'll make sacrifices. We want to make a lot of sacrifices. Of course, it's a big lie because they wouldn't make any sacrifices at all. They just ran away. Also, says Moses, also our flocks will go with us. Lo tishar parsa, there won't remain 1 foot of an animal. Kimimenu lekach, because we're going to take it to serve God, our God. Because we don't know, we don't know how much we need to serve God. Maybe God's going to request a lot. It says, how difficult the service is going to be. Maybe we'll remain out there in the desert with more time than we have the animals to supply sacrifices. So God's hardened the heart of Paro, and he did not want to send them. Vayomer Paro, and Paro said to Moses, okay, get out of here. Lech mi alai. You better watch out. Don't see my face, because the day you see it again, you're going to die. And Moses said, okay, just like you said, lo osif, you're not going to see my face anymore. Rashi says, Yafi dibarti, you speak very well. Paro, you spoke truth also. You're never going to see my face anymore, right? You're not going to come and see me anymore. And God said to Moses, 1 more plague I'm going to bring to Paro. And afterwards, he's going to send you out. Totally. He's going to drive you out from Egypt. And what is this, the plague going to be? This is the plague is going to be the plague of the firstborn. We'll just do 2 more sentences. Daber no bazneam, speak to the people, and each person should request from his friend, and each woman from her neighbor friend, and there's the non-Jews, vessels of silver and vessels of gold. Moses, what does it mean, daber no? Please speak to your neighbors. What do you mean, please speak to the neighbors? Just tell them, go speak to your neighbors and take their riches. He said, no. Please, Moses requested, please, everybody, be careful with this. I want you to take all the money from all of the Egyptians. Why? Shalom or over tzaddik, so that Abraham will not say, hey, God, you promised me 2 things, that we will be slaves in a strange land, and afterwards we're going to go out with a lot of riches. Well, the first part you really kept very well. We were certainly slaves, and we and God, and they tortured us. That you did. But afterwards you go out with the great riches you didn't do. So therefore I want that God should come out good, that it'll keep the promise that God made to Abraham, that the Jews are going to be slaves and they're going to go out. And God put the grace, favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. Also, Moshe was very, very great in the land of Israel, in the eyes of the servants of Paro, and in the eyes of the people. Rashi, the Sforno says, Rashi was very great. The kavodo herbe, because for the honor, because of the honor of Moses, therefore, Lashiel, they forced the Jews to take, right, riches. Please take all of my riches. Says Gam Ish Moshe. Sof Tez, what's the name? Ish Moshe. Gam Ish Moshe. This is Ha Shem. This is that that Moses' name became very great. He was very honored by the Egyptians. The Sforno is a little bit different. Speak, please, to the people, and tell them to give you money. Don't worry that maybe because of money that they'll be willing to sacrifice their lives to run after you, because the fact of the matter, this is what's going to save their lives, namely that they let you go, that they evict you with all the money, the Egyptians. So if so, now we see that Moses and the Jewish people are just about to go. One more plague is going to finish it off. That's what we're going to learn tomorrow. The plague of firstborn dying. And this God one we'll talk about tomorrow. Hope to see everybody at 8:15 tomorrow morning with Mashiach now.